Welcome back, everybody, to another one of our deep dives. Today we are looking at something that's really interesting. It's this potential conflict that's brewing between artificial intelligence and the music industry. And get this, there's this new global study out there suggesting that AI could actually really hit the bottom line for creators. Like the people who actually make the music that we love to listen to. So
Huh.
I'm joined by an expert who's going to walk us through some of this new research. So maybe to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about this study and who put it out?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a study that was put out by the International Confederation of Societies of Authors and Composers. They go by SISAC for short. And essentially, they're this huge organization that represents more than 5 million creators across the globe. And they're really predicting some pretty big shifts coming to the financial side of the music industry. And you guessed it all, thanks to AI.
AI. Yeah, it seems like AI is kind of infiltrating everything these days. So can you maybe just give us a little bit of a breakdown for, people who might not be super familiar with all this? What exactly is generative AI? And, what's it got to do with music?
Sure. So in a nutshell, generative AI, you can think of it kind of like a computer program. But it's like a super powered computer program because it can create new content based on what it's already learned. So
Mhm.
if you think about music, it's like a digital composer that can listen to tons and tons of songs and then use that info to make something completely brand new.
So it's like it's absorbing all this music and then like spitting out its own version.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so SciSac, they're saying that this could lead to musicians and others in the music sector losing some income.
Yeah, they are.
Like, how much are we talking here?
Well, the report suggests that by 2028, music sector workers could see almost a quarter of their income going to AI. And it's not just musicians. This includes people in film and television as well, the audiovisual sector. And they're looking at potential income drops of over 20%.
So this is kind of across the board in the creative industries. Wow, that's a lot of money, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is that? Is it just that, robots are taking gigs from human musicians?
It's definitely more complicated than that. The report kind of points to two main ways that creators might feel this financial hit. So first off, there's unauthorized use. Like imagine AI churning out music that basically rips off existing songs without any kind of licensing or giving credit to the original artist. That could really eat into the royalty earnings of those original creators.
Yeah, that sounds like a whole copyright nightmare. So that's one way. What's the second thing?
Yep. The other big concern is that there will be less work overall for creative people. As AI gets better and better at making music, it's going to become a faster and cheaper option for a lot of productions. And that could mean fewer composing gigs and fewer opportunities for human musicians to make a living.
So it's kind of like a double whammy then. On the one hand, they could lose out on royalties.
Hmm.
And on the other hand, there might just be fewer jobs for them in the first place.
Right.
Okay, so it really does sound like there's this battle brewing here. Creatives on one side and tech companies on the other. And speaking of tech companies, the report is pretty clear about who stands to gain financially from all of this, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So what are we talking about?
Well, the market for generative AI is just exploding right now. It's projected to go from about 3 billion euros annually all the way to a massive 64 billion euros by 2028.
Wow, that's huge.
So while creators are potentially facing these losses, AI developers who are working in the music industry are predicted to be making around 4 billion euros a year. That's up from just a tenth of a billion this year.
So that's a pretty hefty profit margin. And I bet those working in film and TV, those audiovisual folks are probably seeing some big gains too.
Oh yeah, their gains are actually expected to be even bigger, reaching an estimated 5 billion euros by 2028. And the report really makes a point of saying that this potential shift, it represents money moving from creators to tech companies.
So it's like a transfer of wealth.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this potential financial earthquake on the horizon. And actually, some big names in the music industry are starting to get worried. The report actually calls out Australia and New Zealand for being ahead of the game when it comes to AI regulation, even going so far as to call them a gold standard. So can you tell us a bit more about what they're doing down under?
Yeah, so both countries are being really proactive when it comes to putting laws in place around AI. They're taking steps to make sure that as AI develops and becomes more widely used, it doesn't end up hurting creators' rights or their ability to make a living. It's actually interesting because even Bjorn Ulvaeus, Bjorn from ABA, he's the president of SciSac, and even he has specifically praised Australia and New Zealand for what they're doing.
Wow, Bjorn from ABA. I bet he's got some strong opinions about AI and music.
I'm sure he does.
So what's actually happening in Australia specifically?
Well, just recently they finished a big Senate inquiry, and it was all about the future impact of AI. And the recommendations from that inquiry really stressed the need for strong laws to protect creators as this technology keeps evolving.
Okay, so that's Australia. What about New Zealand?
New Zealand's also moving forward with regulating AI. They're taking a close look at how their existing copyright laws apply to contents generated by AI, and they're also exploring new measures to make sure creators' rights are protected.
So it seems like they're both trying to get out ahead of this thing before it becomes a bigger problem.
Exactly.
Like they're saying, hey, we love innovation, but we also need to make sure we're not leaving the human artists behind.
Right. They're acknowledging the potential of AI, but also recognizing the potential downsides if it's not developed and used responsibly.
And their approach could actually serve as a model for other countries who are trying to figure out how to handle all of this.
I think so.
Okay. So it's good to see that some countries are at least taking these concerns seriously. And I think that's a good segue into talking a bit more about the specifics from the report, about how much of an impact AI could have on the music industry financially. So the report suggests that by 2028, AI-generated music could make up a pretty big chunk of the overall music revenue.
It could.
Like what kind of numbers are we talking about here?
Well, they're predicting that it could account for about 20% of traditional music streaming revenue. And these days, of course, streaming is how most people listen to music. So a 20% share is pretty significant.
Wow, yeah, that's a big slice of the pie. But what about other areas of the music industry?
Well, the report also looks at music libraries. These are the companies that provide soundtracks and background music for all kinds of media. And in that area, the prediction is even more dramatic. They say that AI could end up generating 60% of the music library revenue.
60%? That's massive. I mean, that could totally change the music library industry.
It definitely could.
It really highlights just how big of a shift AI could bring to the way money flows in the music world.
It does.
And we have to remember that these changes won't just impact, the big-name artists or the huge music companies.
Right.
It's going to be the up-and-coming artists, the independent musicians, the smaller music businesses that could really feel the effects of this.
Yeah, they're probably going to be the ones who are disproportionately affected.
And that makes it even more important to have, regulations and support systems in place to make sure that everyone who is part of making music can still thrive, even with AI in the picture. Okay, so we've talked about, the potential for human creators to lose income. And we've talked about the money that AI developers stand to gain. But let's bring in the voice of someone who's actually out there in the music industry right now. Dean Ormston, who is the CEO of the Australian music rights organization, Opera Amcos. He's been pretty vocal about his concerns around all of this. So what is he saying?
Well, he's basically echoing the concerns that are highlighted in the report. He's emphasizing that we need global action to make sure that creators aren't left behind in all of this. He's calling for fair compensation for creators and for clear rules to protect their work and their livelihoods. He really stresses that it's the talent and the hard work of human creators that make the music industry what it is.
Yeah, he makes a good point. I mean, without those creators, there wouldn't be any music for AI to learn from or to build on in the first place. So protecting their rights and making sure they're paid fairly, that has to be a priority.
Definitely.
And we can't forget about the cultural impact either. I mean, music is such a powerful form of human expression. It connects us. It inspires us.
Yeah.
It reflects our shared experiences. We need to make sure that human creativity stays at the heart of music.
I agree. It's a complex landscape, and there are definitely some big questions to grapple with about what AI-generated music means for the future of human creativity. Yeah, it really is a complex thing. And, it's not just about the money either. There's all these big questions about, like, what does AI-generated music actually mean for creativity? Human creativity.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have algorithms that can compose music, perform it, even produce entire tracks, like what does that even mean for the future of human musicians and artists and songwriters?
That's like the big question, isn't it? Some people think that AI could be like a super powerful tool for musicians, almost like helping them get past creative blocks or, try out new sounds.
Yeah.
Or even create stuff that like a human just couldn't do on their own.
So instead of seeing AI as like this competitor,
Yeah.
maybe we could think of it as more of like a collaborator.
Exactly, like a digital bandmate.
Yeah.
You could have a songwriter using AI to generate different melodies, or a producer experimenting with all these crazy sonic textures using AI. It definitely has the potential to like enhance and expand what humans can do creatively.
Yeah, I can see that. But I think we also have to acknowledge that there are these very real concerns that AI could just replace human artists altogether.
Absolutely. Those concerns are at the heart of this whole debate. Can an algorithm really understand the emotions,
Yeah.
the originality,
Yeah.
the kind of spark that makes human music so captivating?
It's almost like that human touch,
Yeah.
that connection to experience.
Exactly.
That's hard to imagine a computer replicating that.
It is, and that's something that we're going to have to figure out as we go.
Yeah, and that makes me think back to Bjorn Ulvaeus. He's been pretty outspoken about the potential downsides of AI, hasn't he?
He has. He's really clear that he thinks AI has the potential for good and bad. And he's specifically worried about AI being used in a way that, like, diminishes human creativity or devalues it.
So he's kind of issuing a challenge then. To be mindful of the choices that we're making about how we use AI in creative fields.
I think so. He believes that the decisions that are being made right now by governments around the world are going to determine whether AI actually helps human creativity
Yeah.
or ends up stifling it.
That's a really powerful way to put it. It's like we're at a crossroads,
Yeah.
and the path we choose is going to have a huge impact on the future of music.
And not just music, I think potentially all creative fields.
Right.
This report from SciSac is kind of a wake-up call. It's saying, hey, we need to be having these conversations now
Yeah, before it's too late.
before it's too late.
And it's not just about the musicians and the composers either.
Right.
It's about writers, designers, filmmakers, anyone who creates.
Anyone who expresses themselves through art.
Yeah, we all have a stake in this.
We do. We have to ask ourselves as a society, what kind of future do we want? Do we want a future where machines are making all the art? Or do we want a future where human creativity can still thrive?
That's the question.
It is.
And I think it's also about the people who are experiencing the art.
Exactly.
You know, if most of the music that we listen to in the future is made by AI, will we even know the difference?
That's such a good question. I think it gets to the heart of what makes human creativity so special. Algorithms can analyze all this data, and they can produce music that's technically good,
Right.
but can they really capture the essence of what it means to be human? Can they express joy, heartbreak, hope, longing in a way that really resonates with us emotionally?
It makes you wonder,
It does.
will music made by AI evoke those same feelings?
Right.
Will it inspire the same connections?
Will it become the soundtrack of our lives in the same way that music created by humans has been for centuries?
Right.
It's a really fascinating thing to think about.
It is.
And I think it's something that each person will have to decide for themselves. But this report is reminding us to be careful, to really think about what it means to hand over creative control to machines.
Yeah, we can't just sit back and let technology dictate the future. We need to be involved in shaping it.
Exactly.
We have to have these conversations, ask the hard questions, and make informed choices.
I agree. And we have to be advocates for human creativity
Yeah.
in all its forms.
Yeah.
We need to support artists, encourage innovation, and make sure that technology is used to help us be more creative, not to replace our creativity.
So we've covered a lot of ground here. The economic impact of AI on music, the ethical considerations, really the essence of what it means to be creative in a world where algorithms are becoming more and more powerful.
We have.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. But these are crucial conversations to be having because the future of music and maybe even the future of human creativity is at stake.
So where do we go from here? What can people do to make their voices heard?
Well, I think the first thing is to be informed. Stay engaged in these discussions. Read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, educate yourself about how AI could impact the creative industries.
Knowledge is power. Right. The more we understand about all of this, the better equipped we'll be to make good decisions.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Support human artists. Stream their music, buy their albums, go to their concerts. Show them that you value their creativity and that you appreciate what they contribute to our culture.
So put your money where your ears are.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, and what about on like a policy level?
Well, you can advocate for laws that protect creators' rights. Contact your elected officials, sign petitions, support organizations that are working to make sure artists are paid fairly, and to make sure that AI isn't being misused in creative fields.
So we can all be advocates in our own way.
You can.
And it's not just about protecting the jobs of musicians.
It's about protecting the things that make our culture rich and diverse.
Exactly. Human creativity is what gives us all of that.
It does.
Yeah, it's like we're all in this uncharted territory right now,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to navigate this whole intersection of human creativity and AI. It's exciting, but also kind of scary at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this report really highlights how important it is to be proactive. We can't just wait and see what happens. We have to actively shape the future we want.
So let's talk solutions. We've talked about a lot of the challenges, but what are some ways that we can, mitigate the risks
Yeah.
and make sure that AI is being used in a way that actually benefits creators and people who enjoy music?
Well, one of the key things is regulation. We need clear rules and laws in place that protect creators' rights and make sure they're getting paid fairly when their work is being used by AI. It's kind of like putting guardrails up around how AI is developed and used in creative industries.
Yeah, like making sure that it doesn't veer off course
Mm,
and end up hurting the very people whose creativity it's built on.
exactly.
Yeah.
Transparency is really important too. We need to be able to understand how these AI systems are trained, what data they're using, how they make decisions.
Yeah, so it's not just a black box.
Right. That transparency will help build trust and make sure that AI is being used ethically and responsibly.
Makes sense. I mean, if we're going to embrace AI as a creative tool, we need to know how it works.
It's like knowing the ingredients in a recipe before you eat it.
Exactly.
And education is a big part of it too. We need to give creators the knowledge and skills to navigate all of this. That means understanding AI, what it can and can't do, and how to use it effectively and ethically.
So it's not just about, regulating AI. It's about empowering creators to use it to their advantage.
Right. Turning it into an asset instead of a threat.
I like that.
And we also have to remember the role that consumers play in all of this. We can all make choices that support human creativity, stream music from artists we like, go to their concerts, buy their merch, and just spread the word about how important it is to value human artistry.
All good points.
Yeah.
It sounds like navigating this whole AI and music thing is going to take a group effort.
It will. Creators, consumers, policymakers, tech developers, we all need to be part of the conversation.
It'll be open to new possibilities, too.
Of course, AI could help us create and experience music in ways we haven't even imagined yet.
It's like we're on the verge of a whole new musical era, and it's up to us to write the soundtrack.
I like that analogy.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really hope listeners will take away from all of this?
I think the most important takeaway is that the future of music in the age of AI, it's not set in stone. We're shaping it right now with the choices we make. Let's embrace the potential of AI, but also protect the value of human creativity.
That's a great way to put it. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with a question to ponder. As AI becomes more and more a part of the music industry, what role will you play in shaping the future of music?
It's definitely something we're thinking about, because the future of music is in our hands.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow with more news and insights from the world of AI finance and tech. Until then, keep those digital antennas